Hey guys, bear with us. We're getting ready to start our sips and trips in just a few seconds. Hit it with your finger and see if it'll work.
It's there. It's coming up.
Is it?
Okay.
Okay, hey guys. So sorry about
that.
that. We had technical difficulties.
So welcome to another episode of Sips and Trips. It is me, Jennifer, also known as Red Lips and Passports, and we have Travels by Tania. Tania from Travels by Tania. And so, introducing our beverages of the night, I'm drinking sparkling cider from Trader Joe's because it's dry January. And Tania has the classic Prosecco from La Marca. And on the previous clip, we were talking about the difference in prices between the La Marca here and the La Marca.
I can't.
Why?
The sound is gonna.
Did you turn your volume on?
Mhm.
Let me see.
So you guys,
It
one.
wasn't all the way down.
I think I.
It wasn't. It still had. Can you just turn it back up again? That was music. Oh, I don't know what's wrong with your phone. That's weird. Okay. We are just having all the kind of technical difficulties tonight.
That's
But
okay.
anyway, thank you guys for.
We're gonna go ahead and get started. We're just gonna go with it. It's perfect.
But if you guys don't know, we are migrating over to YouTube and a podcast because Instagram just has entirely too many technical difficulties for us. Hey, girlfriend.
Hey.
So tonight, we are going to be talking about. This is Sips and Trips, the Oops edition.
The Oops edition.
We are going to be talking about mistakes that we have made during our travels, and we're also going to be talking about mistakes that we see other people make and the times that she and I have had made rookie mistakes.
For
So
sure.
this is definitely going to be an interesting episode, especially if you are a first-time traveler. You are going to learn a lot about the do's and don'ts when it comes to like international travel. So oh, thank you. We wanted to give you guys a little bit of like festive, wintertime coziness.
Yes, and like Jennifer is kind of saying, just to kind of add to it, if this is your first time joining us on Sips and Trips, we enjoy our favorite beverages while talking about our favorite things, which are travel. Jennifer, travel influencer. If you're not following her, Red Lips and Passports, like her content is amazing. I actually found Jennifer. It's really, I found Jennifer. Me and Jennifer were not friends that started this.
Yeah.
Jennifer is somebody that through my travel company, Travels by Tania, I reached out to promote at that time my travel journal, and we've become friends through travel.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of my favorite things, I've met so many beautiful and just wonderful people through my travel. I've traveled to, I think, like 30 plus countries at this point.
Oh, wow.
I've had some amazing conversations. I've met some amazing people. And since we can't physically always be there, to have these kind of conversations, we do it on Instagram Live. And so if you have friends that like travel, that like to talk travel while enjoying their favorite beverages, have them meet us on here on Wednesdays while we talk travel. We've had amazing guests on, and we hope that you guys have been enjoying Sips and Trips thus far. We have some big things coming in 2024. Like Jennifer said, we'll be moving off of Instagram. Instagram is a great platform. It's given us our starts for the most part. However, we know that when it comes to things like when you start streaming, when you start wanting to kind of get more into the podcast lane, you kind of have to expand your platform reach. And so YouTube and podcasts. But since the very beginning, our show has been having these real authentic conversations about travel as we enjoy our favorite beverages.
And one good thing about us switching our platforms is going to be that we're going to be on YouTube. It's not all the time the people that follow you on Instagram are on YouTube and vice versa.
Right.
And we're going to have an actual podcast available on all the podcast platforms, which will also expand our reach so you can listen to it while you're at work or, at the gym, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started with tonight's episode. I'm really excited to share some of these, I guess, horror stories or mistakes that I've made, and that I want to hear all about yours as well. So let's go ahead and get started.
Sounds like a plan. So one of the things you'll notice is that the more that you travel, the more that you learn. And there are no lessons like the ones that hurt. whether it's your pockets, whether it's your feelings, whether it's you physically getting hurt. And so, because we're travelers and we've made some of these mistakes, of course, we want to share those experiences with you guys. And y'all know Jennifer is my favorite storyteller. And so, when I asked her, I'm like, hey, what do we want to kind of talk about with our guest tonight? She was like, girl, all the times we be messing up. And I'm like, okay, so we have the Oops edition. And I'm like, what stories do you want to share? And one thing Jennifer is going to always talk to you guys about a lot is one, not traveling broke, two, not traveling without travel insurance. Those are her two favorite. And
Baby.
I'm telling you, those are two huge tips. And I think your first story you're going to tell us about what? Traveling broke?
Oh, baby. That's child. All right. So this was a long time ago. It was me and my girlfriends. I said I was going to do a story time on TikTok about this. So me and my two friends, we decided we were going to go to Miami. It was our annual trip. We always seem to always find our way going to Miami. So anyway, the week that we were leaving, we were invited to like multiple events. Our friend told us she was having a yacht party. It was really the spirit of Baltimore. If y'all know, you know. She told us she was having a yacht party, and then we had like clubs to go to.
I want to interrupt. The spirit of Baltimore, you like, if you know, you know, I don't.
The spirit of Baltimore is a daytime lunch cruise, and this fool told us that she was having a yacht party. And when we pulled up, it was the daggone spirit of Baltimore. That ain't no daggone yacht.
So you knew before you got there what the spirit of Baltimore was. So you pulled up there and you go into a yacht party and you see, I know you lying.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm telling you, people who ain't never been nowhere or done nothing would make you think that you really getting ready to have you quite an experience. That was spirit. I'm not even. That's a story for another day. So anyway, we also had like some parties that we were going to, and so as the week of our trip was getting closer and closer, we were getting broker and broker, and so I said, I'm about to pump the brakes. I ain't spending no more money. My other girlfriend number two, said, I'm not spending no money either. Well, our genius friend, girlfriend number one, decided that to tell us this stupid idea. Hey, we get paid on the 7th, and we're leaving for our trip on the 6th. Our flight lands at midnight, so that means by the time we land, we'll have money. So we was like, yeah, like dummies. That makes sense. Yeah, we're going to get paid at midnight. Only when we got to Miami,
Of all
after
places,
midnight,
the place where friendships go to end.
after midnight, we did not have any money. We hadn't gotten paid, right? So here we are with like $60 between the four of us, the three of us. We have enough money to catch our. Let me preface this with, I was 24, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
This was quite some time ago. Okay, so it wasn't recent. So anyway. We get there, we have enough money for the cab. And so as we're driving from the cab, as we're on the cab ride back to the hotel, we're all calling our banks, like in a frenzy. Like, oh my God. Oh my God. Like, the money still hasn't come. We get to the hotel and we can't check in because we don't have any money to check in. And we did one of those book now, pay when you arrive, right? So we're literally sitting outside the hotel until 3 in the morning when finally one of us gets paid. And then we're able to check in the hotel. But the crazy part was the person whose idea this was storms off with an attitude. You the reason we're in this situation.
What was the attitude for?
Because she was mad because we were stuck outside and none of us had gotten paid. And we sitting outside at 3 in the morning outside
This is the whole thing.
looking like 3 homeless clowns.
When you want to be the queen of brilliant ideas that are not brilliant, you have to have a certain kind of patience and temperament to go with that. If I knew I threw that out there, I gotta look strong the whole time. I gotta be like, y'all want some chips? We could do this.
We didn't have no money for no chips.
Y'all had $60. Y'all
No, we got not. We got the taxi. We ain't had no $60 after the taxi.
How much y'all had?
About 3.
Okay, so y'all could have split it for them. And figured it out. Y'all should have had a Four Loko, one buzz ball. That tequila Rita, it wouldn't have mattered where y'all was at because y'all wasn't gonna know anyway.
Nonetheless, when we finally got paid, one of us finally got paid. The sad part was the person who I did didn't get paid, and she was the very last one to get paid. I mean, I think she got paid like at noon
Hell no.
that day. So anyway, we ended up having a great time on the trip. We spent so much money that one of us could not pay their rent when they got back. Not me. But it was so irresponsible at this big age. You know, I am almost 40 now. I can't imagine doing no dumb stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, I can't travel without any money. And you know what I said when we got stuck in DR that time.
Yeah.
If you for those who don't know, Tania and I actually met on a trip to the Dominican Republic, and we got stranded there because of Hurricane Fiona.
Right.
And a lot of us ended up having to pay a lot of additional money in order for us to get home because stuff. I think I probably spent a good maybe like $1,300 extra. And I told her there once was a time where I would have had to become a Dominican citizen because I wouldn't have been able to afford to get home.
For sure.
And these days, at this big age, if I don't have the money, if it's not in the budget, I ain't gonna be able to go.
Yeah. And I actually have a similar story. We're just waiting for money to post. And I don't think I've ever shared this story. I was older than Jennifer. I think I was turning 30. For my 30th birthday, we took it was my first really long haul trip. We took a 18-day trip through Europe.
Oh, yeah.
And so the plan was, because it was so long, 18 days, of course, I didn't have enough money to make it 18 days, but I wasn't worried because I was going to get paid while I was there. What I did not think about was the fact that we were a day ahead. So the day I was expecting to get paid was the day that we were landing in Greece. And if you've ever heard me talk about this Greece story, the part of it I have shared is that when we landed in Greece, our bags didn't land with us. It was a couple of months after the airport in Rome had a fire. We flew Vueling. So I'm not opposed to flying budget airlines, but never fly any of them a budget airline if you have to check a bag. I don't care if it's a budget airline in other countries, whatever. Spirit, Frontier, you don't really have too many issues if you don't check a bag. I actually don't check bags anymore for any airline, but back then, which is gonna feed into the story I'm telling next, I had a big bag. I checked it. When we arrived in Athens, not just my bag was missing, but the flight may have had 80 people on it. 40 of our bags were missing when we landed. So I'm already frustrated because I don't have a bag. Then I go to get ready to check into the hotel, check my account. Just know that the numbers, it might not have been $60. It might have been $59. And I got to check in and pay for the hotel. And I was like, so land at the airport. We don't have any bags. We're getting to the hotel. We're getting ready to get to the counter. The whole time I'm checking. But I had text my little brother because that used to be the person I used to rely on a lot. Like for money, it's always been me and him. Like whatever. Since college, your refund check came yet? Mine neither. We about to figure it out, And so whatever. But just so happened when I got to the counter to pay and checked my account, the money had posted.
Let me tell you, that's because God takes care of babies
and fools. And I know which one I was. I was a baby traveler. That's the one I was.
I'm going to tell you that traveling will humble you because I remember in 2019, I got TSA pre-check, I think in 2018. And in 2019, I went to Atlanta. And when I tell you, look, I was financially strapped. Like, I really didn't need to take that trip. My girlfriend actually ended up buying my flight for me. I had some situations happen, so my money was very tight at the time. And so I remember flying. The day I was flying back, her friend was taking me to the airport, and I think my flight was leaving at, let's say, 7:30. And I was like, oh, I don't need to get to the airport until 6:30, right? In Atlanta. And I'm like, well, I have TSA pre-check, so we good. And she was like, well, are you sure? And I'm like, girl, I got pre-check.
I do this all the time. I do this. I'm a traveler.
Yeah, I do this all the time, but not at Atlanta. So Atlanta Airport is actually probably one of the biggest and one of the worst U.S. airports.
Worst for sure.
It's a hub for international travel. Not only that, you have to take the train to your gate. And I forgot that. I had TSA pre-check, but the pre-check line at ATL Airport is already long, right? So really, it benefits you. It benefits you more if you have clear and pre-check, but that's a story for another day. Here's a hack real quick. If you ever are taking a flight from Atlanta Airport, and you have TSA pre-check and you don't want to stand in a long line, go through an international terminal and take the train to your gate that way. That's like an easy way for you to get through the airport very, very quickly. I didn't know that back then because, again, I was maybe 3 years into the travel game. So anyway, I get through security. Security was super, super long, even with pre-check. And I forgot that I have to now catch the train to get to my gate. I completely forgot. And the time is getting closer and closer and closer to my flight taking off. And I think by the time I got off the train, it was like 7:17, right? At that time, I weighed 300 pounds, okay? And I also was going straight from the airport to work. So I had on my work clothes, which was these long pants, and I had on mules.
I'm sorry, this is not funny, but I see, like, this is tragic.
It is
tragic. It is
and
tragic.
I'm running and I'm crying, right? And I hear them playing the Rocky song as I'm running, and the people is on the sides cheering me on with their signs. They saying like, you can do it. And I'm lying about the signs, but people was really cheering me on as I'm running because I'm crying. Because I'm like, they're like, Spirit Airlines flight 1234, this is your final call. And baby, I got to that gate and I yelled, wait! Because I couldn't run no more. I was tired. And they was like, we going to hold the door for you. Because if you have never traveled, once the door closes, that's it. They cannot open the door. I don't know if y'all ever seen Home Alone, but they lying on Home Alone. It might have been like that in the 90s. But
before
on Home
9/11,
Alone,
it possibly could.
It probably was before 9/11. I don't know, because if you watch A Million Little Things, it wasn't like that on 9/11.
Yeah, I'm just,
But
yeah.
But anyway, on Home Alone, the door was closed and they said, are we too late? And the lady said, no, you're not too late. And she opened the door. That is never going to happen
ever. If you get there to that gate and it's closed, baby, go ahead and start making your arrangements.
Go ahead and make your arrangements. And I did not have any money. Okay. Yeah. I had no money. So I was really going to have to do something strange to get home. And so I finally made it onto the, I did make it onto the flight. But I mean, when I tell you I couldn't breathe, and let me tell you, Spirit Airlines don't give you nothing free. When I sat down, they handed me some water and a snack because they knew grandma had worked off her entire breakfast running to that.
And I'm going to tell you something else too. With that, when they close that door, when you fly, this is another thing. If you're flying a budget airline like a Spirit or a Frontier, they might not have any more flights going out that day. And they also might charge you a fee. Like if you're flying a United and American, they going to work with you on that first one. They going to let you have it, whatever. They going to put you on standby for something else. Spirit be like, well, you could pay for another flight.
Blessings to you.
Right.
Blessings to you, because
and salutations.
I can't speak for every airport, but I know from Baltimore to Atlanta and vice versa, it's only early morning flights. So I would have had to leave. The next day. Mm-hmm. In addition to not having any money, I also didn't have any leave. So there's that. So I needed to get to my job on that day.
Yeah.
And so the lesson that I learned is, bruh, know where you going to, know where airport you're flying from.
Right.
If I was at LAX, if I was at, which one is bad in Chicago? O'Hare or Midway? One of them is like more hectic than the other.
I'm pretty sure it's O'Hare,
yeah.
Not Midway, because Midway is the smaller.
Yeah. So O'Hare, London Heathrow, Rome, LAX, what else? Atlanta airports.
You know what though?
Those are very hectic airports. And so for you to think that you're doing something with this TSA pre-check-in that's clear, just humble yourself, sis, because you're not.
Let me drop a website. If you are a traveler, especially if you are a long haul traveler, or you travel to destinations where there are not a lot of flights that leave in and out, I'm dropping a website in the comments, sleepinginairports.net.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Because what it does is that, especially if you travel a lot with long haul flights, you figure out where. I'm actually dropping their direct page. You can follow them, get the information. Sleeping in airports, why they're so valuable is that they tell you where are the showers in this airport, where are places that are quiet, where can I sleep if I get stuck, where are the lounges. And I say this, some of you are like, oh, I'm not never going to have to sleep in no airport. I just know where the shower. Let me explain something to you. Prior to COVID with long haul flights, the likelihood of you getting a cancellation or a delay was high. Now let's factor in what long haul travel is like after COVID. if you are somebody that knows you can't really deviate from your plan has to go, or you're anxious and you can't navigate it, now might not be the best time for long haul flights. Um, I've slept in airports.
Mm-hmm.
I've taken showers in airports. I've used my benefits of the lounges. Sleeping in airports, I tagged it. Let me sleeping in airports. You should be able to go to their page. Let me know if you don't see it. It's coming from Travels by Tania.
You just never know. I never thought I would have to sleep in an airport, and I I I messed up my flight somehow and didn't realize how long my layover was. And I think my layover was like 6 hours coming back from Barbados, but I was coming back late because my flight had ended up getting delayed. And I ended up having to sleep in the Charlotte airport because there was no point in me having
To get a hotel.
because by the time I went through security and and went through customs, got to the hotel, I would have only had a couple hours of sleep before I had to come back to the airport.
Yeah.
Before I had to come back to the airport, so it just didn't make sense. And so I ended up sleeping in Charlotte Airport. Let me tell you what I learned though. Airports are cold.
Freezing.
When there's nobody in there, airports are
freezing
cold.
when people are in there.
So I felt like it was colder. Like it was, I mean, like I literally was like, by the time it's time for me to get on my flight, my toes are going to fall off.
Yeah.
I didn't have any socks because I was coming from Barbados. And yeah, it was not fun.
My favorite airport to get stuck in for long delays are when I miss flights. Jennifer will tell you I miss a bunch of flights. That don't really stress me out. But Denver Airport. If you go in Denver's airport, I think the terminal is seat to the very top floor. There are these lounge seats that lay all the way out. So even if you're just chilling, there are plugs.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's up there because nobody knows about it. I found out about it because of sleeping in airports. You simply go up to that top floor, grab your coffee. You can sleep, you can rest. I've started traveling with a blanket, especially when it's long haul. But then I know people are like, "Well, I'm not gonna sleep in the airport. I can get a hotel." Every airport does not have hotels. Sometimes you end up in a location where it's not ideal for you to have to leave the airport and pass through customs to come back in, and your flight is 6 hours away. It makes sense to have a little patience to just stay. And that's one of the things too. We see a lot of people right now clowning the airports. Don't forget about the girls. Have you seen that?
Girls, you don't care about the girls.
You don't care about the girls.
Think about the girls.
And so if you haven't seen that video, Jennifer, can you put it in your stories?
Yes, I will
Okay.
find it and put it.
Don't forget about the
stories.
girls.
But I think all you have to do is really on TikTok, on Instagram, just look at
the girl. Don't forget about the girls.
Don't forget about the girls. Don't forget about the girls.
Because you can't cut up in the airport. There are certain places where you can't cut up. It doesn't matter what these people do to you. I don't know about y'all, but there are a lot of things I'm okay with losing. I can't lose my flight privileges.
No.
Those people can just about do whatever they want to me. If it came down to me being calm and losing my flight privileges, I don't just want to be able to go on cruises and road trips. I want to be able to do a lot of different things. And so I don't clown in the airport. Like, I don't.
No.
But all these people you see that are losing their stuff, because travel right now it's not as easy as it once was. And I don't know if it's going to go back to that anytime soon.
It's stressful, and I think that a lot of people just aren't resourceful to kind of like try to navigate the issues. The thing about travel right now, and if you watched our episode when we had La India on, we were talking about how travel just is not very glamorous sometimes because there are flight delays. I know earlier this year, I mean not this year, it's 2024. In 2023, I actually had to walk from the main road to the airport. Here at DC airport because some fool decided that he was going to steal an ambulance and crash the ambulance on the road that you have to take to get to the airport, which ended up causing a traffic jam, which caused them to have to delay flights significantly because nobody could get to the airport from either direction. And it was, I finally got through. I'm like, okay, I think I'm gonna make my flight. And then they were like, okay, your flight is delayed. I think we were delayed by like 3 or 4 hours. And people were cussing and going off. I met this girl, Tara. Tara, if you're watching, hey boo. And we met this other guy. We ended up having a great time. You just have to learn how to make the best of it because at the end of the day, what are you going to do?
Right. And you cannot cut up in them people's airport. Like you cannot. Like, and so it's one of those things to where I get it. One of the things I recommend everybody have is an airport drinking budget, whether it's because you have a flight delay or cancellation, because you get there early, which is never going to be my story. Did I tell y'all? I know I told Jennifer. Let me tell y'all why I don't get to the airport early. I happen to get to the airport early for a flight to Atlanta. I had a little time, so I'm at the bar drinking. I look up. I had missed my entire flight. I was at the bar across from my gate and had just missed. You know, I don't know if anybody's ever experienced this when you are mad. Like, I'm pissed off, but you can't be mad at nobody but yourself because you did this. Like, there's nobody you can blame. There's nobody you can be mad at. And so you are just literally sitting there. You talk about stupid. I walked to the gate, the door was closed, and they were like, we just closed it. I'm like, well, y'all didn't say my name. Now airports are trying to use this. Well, we're going to a silent airport. That's a damn lie because American down there calling somebody right now. There's not an airport in Houston that's silent, but they were like,
There
yeah,
are no
we don't
airports
call
in America
names
that are silent.
Well, according to the Spirit Gate at at Bush Intercontinental in Houston, IAH, they said they were being silent. No, you were not. And I'm like, I was mad, y'all. I was that mad where if I could have, I would have left the airport and went and kicked the fence or something. I was pissed off, but I couldn't be mad at nobody but myself. So I don't get to the airport early. But anyways, back to get on point. You never know, like when you're gonna have to have some sips in the airport and just sit and talk. I've met some wonderful people in the airport. Just simply sitting and chilling. I see the never heard of a silent airport.
Let's
Do
touch
you
on
want to
that
explain
real
that?
quick.
Go
So
ahead.
a silent airport is where they're not going to make any announcements. It
At
is
all.
up to you to pay attention to your flight times. I always recommend downloading the app for the airline that you're flying with or paying attention to the signs. So they are not going to announce your name. They're not going to announce flight times, flight delays, anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I've only flown
Cape
through
Town.
two. Yeah,
It's
Cape
one.
Town. Cape Town has a silent airport, and Toronto, I believe, is a silent
There's another
silent
one.
airport. There's also, I think, Sri Lanka has a silent
I've flown
airport.
through there.
I can't think of who else, but it is becoming a thing. So you definitely can do research on the air. You can look up the airport that you're flying at and find out like what their deal is, what their amenities are, and
For sure.
and anything else they may have. I don't know any silent airports in America, but that's not to say that
Airlines are their people.
right. Airlines might be silent.
Our people might
decide to be silent. So
Yeah.
honestly, your best bet is to just have the app
Yeah.
on your phone.
But
I'm a Delta girl. I don't really fly too many other airlines, but with Delta, they will say like, "Hey, we're going to let you know when it's time for you to board your flight. Hey, Jennifer, it's time for you to board your flight. Your flight is delayed. Your bag has made it onto your plane, et cetera, et cetera."
Right. And I'm going to say this. If you're going to travel, especially like one of the things that we see a lot on social media is people making trips look more glamorous than what they are. Are you even understanding the dynamics of travel? If you're going to travel, learn how to use the airport screens. Because let's just say you have the app, but you're in the airport where there's no Wi-Fi or no air conditioner. I've been through airports like that, especially when you travel to Africa. You know, it may be an airport where a portion of it is wide open.
Mm-hmm.
I've slept outside at an airport in Africa
I remember you telling me
in
that.
Dar in Tanzania. So it's one of those things or whatever. But learn how to utilize the screens. Go to the screen. Know how to use it. We're so used to being attached to our cell phones, but we about this on our end of the year episode. I've been on trips where my phone has crashed and I couldn't get it fixed because of the location I was. You may drop your phone. There may be no Wi-Fi. Maybe you can't charge your phone. When I went to Egypt, the airport in Cairo, you don't really get to where the chargers and things are you can use until after you clear security. You can't clear security until a certain amount of time before your flight. So in airports in the U.S., if you have a flight scheduled that day, you can pretty much go as early as you want to, enjoy a lounge, whatever it is. You can't rely on your phones alone. You better like have some type of idea. And it was so cold in Egypt. And I mean cold, like cold blooded. Like we were like, God dog, this how y'all doing, people? I walked up to the counter to ask the man, like, because they don't tell you what the time is before you can clear security. They were just like, you can't come in right now. And we're like, so when do we, like, are we gonna miss our flight? When are y'all gonna let us in? So I go to my airline gate to talk to the attendant that was there. I walk over there, he is asleep. When I say sleep, I mean hard down, head down, he is asleep. I said, excuse me. He opened up his eyes, looked at me, and went back to sleep. And so I was like, okay. And I was just trying to find out, like, when do I get to go through the line? Is there somewhere I could charge my phone? Where's the nearest restroom and all that kind of stuff? you have to really learn to be resourceful and learn to be, if you don't already have this temperament, be kind. Being kind and being nice will get you further than being irritated and having an attitude. Everyone,
Yeah,
and I
because
get it.
nobody is going to want to.
No, for sure. And so after moving along, we've spent a lot of time talking. I want to make sure we utilize our time well. Because one thing about Instagram, they gonna cut you off in an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And when we switch to other platforms in our podcast, if we have more information to share, if we're getting into a topic, that's another reason too why we are trying to make sure that we can make the most out of this by switching to other platforms, is things like being able to increase the time. So while we're talking about travel lessons, let's talk about flights. So that same trip to Europe I was telling you guys about, I was at that time, it wasn't really travel influencers. This was like 2015, 2016. You still were just posting cute pictures on Instagram. But I was heavy into Pinterest. Like, Pinterest was that girl. If you were gonna travel, you were getting on Pinterest, reading travel guides, you were blogging. That's when blogging was hot. So I had a whole bunch of outfits planned out to blog, all that kind of good stuff. And so I packed a 50-pound bag. This trip was composed of 18 days. We started in London. We went to Paris, Venice, Florence, Rome, and then we ended Athens, Crete, Mykonos, Santorini, whatever. So on that trip, we had short flights, we had train rides, we had ferry rides. And me and packing at this time, I'm like, oh, okay, I got about 9 outfits for every day. No lie, my bag was 50 pounds. I was getting down. I didn't think about what it was gonna be like dragging that heavy ass bag across Europe. When you get on trains and a lot of these things, you have to put your bag up high, even getting on buses. At that time, I might was 120 pounds. Me trying to put up my 50-pound bag there, my 20-pound bag. I'm dragging that heavy bag around. And now when people travel with me, they're always like, how'd you get all that stuff into your bag? I can get 5 days worth of clothes in a purse. Mm-hmm. You give me that big Louis Vuitton Speedy, I can get a weekend's worth of clothes in.
Absolutely.
Easy.
Absolutely.
And it's because I've learned to not overpack. The more that you travel, the more you will learn. You don't need 15 outfits for every day. My go-to is a daytime outfit, a nighttime outfit, and that's typically what I plan my trip around, with the exception of special occasion outfits. I don't check bags at all. We touched on that earlier. Me checking, if I check a bag, it's going to be on my way back. Other than that, you can lose all this stuff on the way back. Because I own a travel company, because I'm a travel content creator, I can't afford for my bags to get lost or misplaced. I don't overpack. I don't check bags. Pack what you need, because the reality is, in most of these places, if you forget something small, especially if you're at a hotel, your toothbrush, you can get that there. Your toothpaste, you can get that there. Like, just pack reasonably, because overpacking limits. Think about this. Sometimes you go to these other countries, and in the US, your check bag limit may be 50 pounds. Overseas, it may be 30. Now what? Now you have this heavy bag you're trying to break down. You have all these limits. Know exactly what the airline limits are for every airline that you are flying. If it says kilograms, know what that is in pounds, because international airlines are less likely to play with you than American airlines. You don't ever want to get to a situation where you have to decide, what am I going to do with my bag? I can't take it. It's too big. It's too late to check it. Pay attention to the parameters for your particular flight. And if you can, because I know there are certain extraordinary circumstances, only pack what you need and don't check a bag unless you absolutely have to. There is nothing like arriving to a destination without your stuff. And they always tell you things like, make sure you have some extra underwear, your medication, your important things on you. They tell you that for a reason, because right now, especially if it's long haul travel, the likelihood of your bag not getting there is high. And I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm telling you this from experience.
Oh, absolutely. One lesson that I have learned is to always pack feminine hygiene products, even if it's not going to be that time that I'm.
Because you might get stuck.
Not even get stuck. When we were in Brazil, my period came a week early, but I had provisions, because my first international trip, I went to Sydney, Australia, and I did what's called the Coogee to Bondi walk. and it's a walk from where I think you hit 7 different beaches, and it's a hike. It's maybe like 3 or 4 miles, and we were in the middle of the hike in the woods, and I felt a little tickle, and I was like, oh, I think my period just came, and it was like 2 weeks early.
Yeah.
And I'm here in the middle of the woods in a foreign country. I mean, it was just Australia, but still, and I had no provisions with me. I had some napkins in my backpack. I did a little wiggle in the woods, put the napkin where it needed to go, and that was it. But that was a very, very valuable lesson.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lady who just joined Miss Moxie's Moon Shop. It's actually one of my favorite stores.
I
in my
always see you
neighborhood.
promote.
I'm going to take you there tomorrow.
Yay! Okay.
And so it's what I like about her is their store is that I go there to stock up on the travel things that I need in preparation for my period. The disposable heating pads for you just stick them to your panties and they heat, help you with your cramps. They have a small thing of cramp balm. They have a small feminine hygiene wash, and they also have this thing called waterless wash. It is a game changer. If you ever find yourself being stranded, if you ever find yourself feeling unclean on a flight, you need to quickly wash up. It is a body wash that does not require any water. You can just put some of it on a paper towel and wipe down, and it eliminates body odor.
I love that. That's good to know.
Yep. And so those are all some things that I always travel with. Now, unfortunately, the waterless wash does not come in a travel size, but
you can put it in a travel
bottle. You can put it in a travel bottle, and so it's actually it's excellent. And then another thing is knowing how to say feminine hygiene product names in the language in which you are. While we were in Brazil, I did have some provisions, but not enough for all of the days that we were there. So I had to learn how to say where your feminine hygiene products in Portuguese, because in Brazil, very few people speak English, right?
Very few.
Very few people speak English.
I'm glad that you shared that, because I shared my story about same trip to Europe. For that to be my first long haul trip, y'all, that trip changed my life in so many ways. For one, it was my first time taking a flight over like 3 or 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, like, I had friends that trusted me to help plan a lot of this. I didn't have a travel company at that time. I wasn't even a travel writer. That trip was the catalyst to me being published on things like Blavity, on my pictures being reposted. On that time, they were sharing travel pictures. Black girls travel to, you had your Travel Noirs, your Soul Society. I was featured in Essence and the Essence and Soul Society collab because of that trip. There were so many things, but I went through so much during that trip because I did not know anything. I really hadn't been anywhere but like your Punta Canas, your Mexico. Oh, and I was a Las Vegas, Miami, Atlanta girl. I was living, baby. If it was a club open during that time, we was outside. But when we got there, because I did not have a bag, I landed, my cycle started before I got my bag back. I had no materials, no anything. We were in Mykonos. We started off our Greece trip in Mykonos. Mykonos is a beach town, which means that there was a mall. The pharmacist spoke not any English at all, because it was a smaller island. They spoke Greek. I knew nothing. I didn't know how to tell them I was having cramps, whatever, all that kind of stuff. And we ended up, I guess she figured it out. I said a stomach ache. I bought medicine. A few years ago, I found that medicine and I looked up what it was. She had she had given me medicine for like acid indigestion and like,
see, and that's why you
diarrhea.
Okay, so here is another hack. The Google app.
Translate.
Download the Google app. You can use Google Translate, but not only that, you can use Google Lens. If you are somewhere and you don't understand the menu, if you don't understand how to read the medication, open up Google Lens and put it over top of allow your camera to be over top of the text. it will translate the text visually, and you can visually see what it is. If you move it, then the text is going to go away, but it can detect which language it is and which language it needs to be translated to. We had to use that quite a bit in Brazil.
Yeah, we struggled in Brazil, y'all. This is embarrassing for me. As someone, that plans trips, I don't know why I got to Brazil thinking that they were going to speak Spanish and it was Portuguese. I was so out.
Yes, because you kept asking in Portuguese or Espanol. I'm like, they gonna tell you Portuguese.
Yeah, but some places I went, and then so on the 17th, we actually have um the travel company founder Isabella from Travel Explorer XP. She's gonna be on our show.
Yes,
Brazil,
amazing.
she is. But having her was a luxury because I was able to call her for everything. Like, she was able to help. She was able to facilitate, like, because Brazil is authentic. This is not your resort travel. This is you are dealing with authentic people that are trying to make a living. It was a very authentic trip and it was amazing. But she'll be on our show on the 17th talking about travel to Brazil right now, because if you've been seeing Jennifer's content, they're now requiring a visa. They're requiring certain things like a certain amount of money in your bank account and things like that. And so navigating that, but we'll actually have her on the 17th, and I'm excited about that. But for sure in Brazil, we were struggling language wise.
We did enough to get by. We understood obrigada. As a woman, you say obrigada. If you're saying thank you, we understood ciao, bom dia. We did enough to get by, but we definitely relied on Google Translate quite a bit and Google Lens. Like when we were reading menus, we had to use Google Lens quite a bit. But the beautiful thing about having Isabella as our tour guide is on our way to our excursion, she actually gave us a lesson in Portuguese.
For sure. Yes.
And so that was a really good, actually I have some content coming up about like 5 tips on 5 reasons you need to book a travel guide. Because she gave us,
she was amazing.
She was amazing. She was so thorough. But more on her when we have our show on
the 17th. Yeah, and I'll say this, as a travel company owner, one of the things I always aspire to do is to be able to connect my clients with authentic travel guides that are feet on the ground. It's easy getting on Expedia, and all these different sites, booking through a third party vendor. But me knowing I can pick up the phone and saying, hey, no, I have a company in Dubai where it's a local owner that has lived in Dubai for years, that runs their business there. Hey, I have this connect in the Bahamas. They're born and raised there. And just when you have access to local people in certain destinations, use them. Because that's the best advice you would get. It's kind of like if you were coming to Houston. I didn't move to Houston. I'm born and raised in Houston. I'm Houston through and through. And so it's one of those things to where the same way you reach out to people in the States to leverage their resources, their knowledge of destinations, your locals are always an asset in the destinations that you go to, especially when it comes to being able to try the authentic foods, things to worry about, things to keep you safe and things like that. And I recommend that. So put our show on the 17th on your calendar.
Definitely.
For sure, because that's going to be a big one. So as we get back in the lessons, speaking of travel, one of the biggest lessons I learned was on my first trip to Africa, going to South Africa. I don't even know why this didn't cross my mind. I was just starting my travel company, so I wasn't really booking international flights outside of the Caribbean at that time. Getting ready to go to South Africa. I done packed all these cute clothes, all this whatever. And then my brother's girlfriend at the time, wife now, she says, oh, it's going to be winter when you get there. And I'm like, I was planning my hot girl summer on my U.S. summer in Cape Town, and it's going to be their winter. Now, granted, it wasn't a winter like what we have in the States, but it's still, I needed a jacket. I needed a coat some nights when it got cool, and I wouldn't have been prepared for any of that. But take it a step further. Knowing when you're booking to some of these destinations, is it their rainy season?
That is a good one.
Is it a time where they have natural disasters? Like, is it? Yeah.
You'll find that. So I remember one time I wanted to go to Thailand in like May, and I'm like, y'all, the flights are cheap. They're like $400. We should go. There is a reason why Thailand is cheap in May, because it's their rainy season. I've traveled to Guadeloupe in 2022, and my flight was $250 from JFK, and we didn't realize it, but it was their rainy season. Luckily, their rainy season was just like, oh, it's going to rain a bit during the day, and then it'll dry up, kind of like Florida. But you have to remember where you are. When I flew to Australia, it was the beginning of winter here, but it was their summer.
Mm-hmm.
You have to remember that every country does not have the same weather as you.
And I think even taking that a step further, first off, doing your research, understanding what the climate is going to be like in the destination that you choose so that you know what the weather is going to be like, understanding what season it is, but then also understanding what attire is culturally appropriate when it's that time of year. Just because it's summer everywhere does not mean throwing bikinis everywhere. You know, just when we are traveling to these destinations, I think that one of the things that travel is losing in its entirety is us understanding travel is a privilege. It is not something anybody owes us. It is not something that we should be required to do. And it's not on us to. One of the things that I cringe at a lot, especially when like people get in trouble in certain places for certain laws, people saying they need to change that law. That's not our business. We don't have. That's like somebody coming to your house and telling you, "Oh no, we're gonna throw all this out. You're supposed to run your house like this. You're supposed to do that." It's researching places to not only know what kind of conditions you're going into, but also understanding what's appropriate when you get to these destinations. So that, because the reality is with travel being a privilege, these places can decide at any time, you know what, we're done dealing with this kind of people, with that kind of people. Brazil is just now getting a visa process in place. They're also making you have $2,000 in your bank account when you go. What is that telling you? That means that they are looking only to open up their country to a certain kind of traveler.
To a certain kind of traveler. Because here's the thing, I know you guys know all about passport bros. And a lot of these people, like there was a guy who got stuck in a country because he did not have any money, and the girlfriend left him and canceled his flight. They don't want to be stuck with you, and they don't want to be responsible for you in any kind of way. And so you can't be mad if things are becoming more stringent in certain countries because for a reason, right? And it's not saying that you're doing anything wrong, but they want to weed out the riffraff. Basically, that's how I'm taking it.
Same. And you can't be mad at that.
No, absolutely
You
not.
can't be mad at that.
But the thing about it is that I've only been to one country so far that required a visa. When we went to Brazil, the visa wasn't a thing. That's not a thing until January 10th, so next week. But
before Carnival, that's interesting. I've been thinking about that. Sorry, guys, go ahead.
But strawberry. Going to Australia, I went to go visit two friends that live there, and I'm sorry. Let's see. When I went to Brazil, I needed a visa. We must have done something to make them go back to it. Oh, wow. Oh, no. You know what? Marquita, I did know that. They required visas some years ago, and then they stopped. So something.
When I talk to Isabella, like after all this, when she started telling me about it, it's been something that's been in the works. But part of the problem is the amount of tourists that they get and how it's going to be maintained. And so it takes somebody in office that not only can put that kind of policy into place, but also can maintain it in light of the amount of tourism that they get. Because there's no way for that not to impact tourism. And so it's a lot to manage, but these are good things to bring, especially when Isabella is here on the 17th, because she's born and raised in Brazil.
And collectively, KG said also check the holidays of where you're going because things may be closed. And it's absolutely correct.
Yes.
Certain countries like really celebrate things like Easter, and things are completely shut down. During Ramadan, things may be shut down. Or even
countries that shut down during a certain time of the day because they take naps.
Oh, yeah, they take siestas.
Yeah.
Also, traveling to certain destinations where they are really like a summer kind of touristy town. One of my friends, I want to say she went to the French Riviera or either the Amalfi Coast.
I was going to say the Amalfi Coast. Things are closed.
Things are
not
closed
there
because people aren't there. There are also places where it's hard to find anything on a Sunday. There are places closed. There are also places that do not allow you to have purchase alcohol on Sunday. So these are all things that you want to do. There are several travelers who I have seen join us tonight. The Traveling Twin Mama
is a good one.
She's definitely a great resource. She's one of my favorites.
Especially if you travel with kids.
especially if you travel with kids, and also if you're a traveling mama. Um, no, not Amalfi Coast during the summer is a no. Amalfi Coast when it is not the
Summer, when it's not
is a
peak
no,
season, a
because
lot
a lot
of
of
things are
places
closed.
are closed.
So that's a good question. How do you find this information out? I'm going to be honest. Google, of course, that's the easiest one. But one of my favorite travel resources still, and I've been using this since I started traveling way before travel influencing was a thing. I love getting on Pinterest and reading travel guides. Also, when I'm flying on airplanes, I read the travel magazine. And I don't necessarily have travel magazine subscriptions, but if I'm on a plane, I read the magazine in the plane. I subscribe to newsletters from companies and things that share it. And so there's not one way to find the information. Like it's not, but it's like if I know I'm traveling here, I'm intentional in the information I get. One of the things that we said that we were going to also mention tonight is being familiar with travel.state.gov, knowing what the travel requirements are, knowing what things to worry about. That's our local site. Also making sure that you know what the local website is for the destination you're visiting. Like if you're visiting Jamaica, their local site is Visit Jamaica. You can figure out what the requirements are, what things they're going through. A lot of the destinations start with Visit so and so, but they're not all like that. But Google is your best friend.
Google is your best friend, and also TikTok. But before you, but TikTok, you really kind of got to take that with a grain of salt. But you can find some good information. But also one thing that I do, that my followers will do, they'll say, "Hey Jennifer, I'm headed to Italy. Do you have any? Do you have any tips for Italy?" And I'll say, "Well, I've never been to Italy, but go to so and so's page," because I remember when Marquita, the traveling twin mama, went to Brazil with her family. Someone had messaged me and said, "Jennifer, I'm headed to Brazil. Do you have any tips?" And I said, "I do not, but follow the traveling twin mama. She has content um for Brazil." There was also someone who went to Greece. It was Coconut and Concrete. I said, follow her. She has content for, she has followed content for Greece. The other thing is that travel.state.gov will direct you to the embassy for where the country that you are visiting. And you will find out so many different things from the safety, the current climate, political climate and stuff like that. And it'll direct you to the embassy. Now, I want to say this. There are a lot of scam websites out there.
For sure.
If the website does not end with an official ending .com or .gov, okay? Someone I know in Jamaica, you have to have some kind of form that you have to fill out, right?
When you arrive.
When you arrive in Jamaica, you can do it ahead of time. Someone said, well, they told me that it was going to be $125. And I said, no, it shouldn't cost you anything. And I said, send me the link for the website that you are looking at. And I looked at the website, and then I went to Visit Jamaica or whatever the Jamaica's official website was. And the actual link for what it was, for what they needed, and the link that they sent were totally different. And so they were about to be scammed out of a couple $100s. This also almost happened to me when I applied for Global Entry, right? So I Googled Global Entry because I knew I wanted to apply, and I clicked the first thing that I saw. Big mistake. And I filled out all of the information that they needed. And when it got to the time for me to pay, it said $250 for me to pay. And I said, dang, I thought Global Entry was $100, right? So I'm like, oh, well, I'm gonna have to wait because I didn't want to pay $250. And then I looked, and it was like globaltravelassistance.com. Let us help you get Global Entry. You don't need help. You go to the CBP website, the official cbp.gov. You apply for Global Entry. You pay $100. You go have your appointment. That's it, right? And so you have to really, really pay attention when you're applying for pre-check, Global Entry. If you are a U.S. citizen, and you are applying for Global Entry or TSC PreCheck, it is always going to be through the Department of Homeland Security, right? If you go to the Department of Homeland Security website, it will direct you to Customs and Border Protection, TSA PreCheck, all of that, right? So you want to make sure you are paying attention and not just clicking on these random links.
For sure. And this is extremely important, especially when you talk about getting visas too. Some of these companies are not scams, but some of these companies work as a third party between you.
Yes.
But you don't always need a third party. If as a third party, all you're doing is filling out an application for me and paying my fee, I don't need to pay you for that. So when you are applying for visa destination, is Clear worth it? Absolutely. I swear by my Clear. I love it. It's affordable. I love Clear. It's good for the U.S. for a lot of U.S. travel.
Do you have to be approved for those? Are you saying, do you have to be approved for pre-check and global entry?
You have to go get your fingerprints and your
Yeah. So for global entry, I don't. Yeah, they did the fingerprints. Yeah, you definitely have to. Yeah. So with global entry, what's going to happen is you're going to apply. And then within about 24 to 48 hours, you'll get an email saying that you've been conditionally approved. And then what you'll have to do is go on the global, they'll send you a link for you to make your appointment so that you can go to the local, wherever
to
the
an approved
closest
locations are to
approved
get your
location to finish your it's not really the interview, but to finish your application process, right? And you'll get your global entry number once you have your, you finish the process. Now, if you don't have an appointment, if you can't get an appointment, one thing that you can do is interview upon arrival. And what that means is if you are flying into an American airport and you have a layover, or you're arriving at an international airport in America, right? So if you're flying into Dulles Airport, JFK, Atlanta Airport, whatever, you can actually go through customs and have your clear global entry for us. Yes, but give me a second. I'm gonna explain to that. What does it give you? Okay, hold on, y'all. Give me 1 second. So once you arrive at your international airport, when you're returning back to the US, you can do interview upon arrival. And so it takes 15 minutes for you to do it. So if there's a line of 10 people, just know that it's 15 minutes for each person. But you can ask them, can you direct me to the interview upon arrival line, and you can get your global entry that day. Now, what does global entry get you? It gets you expedited service through customs. So when you arrive, let's say in Atlanta airport you went to Paris, instead of you standing in those long custom lines, you'll go over to a machine. It'll scan your fingerprint or your face or whatever. I don't know. It scans something. And you just have to, once you do that, they direct you over.
They are both services of convenience. When you ask the benefit of them, they are services of convenience.
And it's expedited access. So just like TSA PreCheck and Clear give you expedited access through security, global entry gets you expedited access through customs. Because let's face it, if you're flying through Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport in Atlanta and you are going through customs, you are going to be there for hours. There is no way that you are going to get there in and out quickly, right?
So what that means, don't have a flight where you arrive into Atlanta unless you live in Atlanta. But go ahead, that should not be your first U.S. destination. Go somewhere else.
But because I always fly Delta, that's always where I end up being. And so global entry is $100. It lasts for 5 years, and it gives you access to TSA PreCheck too. So once you get approved for global entry, you now have TSA PreCheck, and you have it for 5 years. Now, do I recommend Clear and global entry? Absolutely.
For U.S.
Yeah, for U.S.
So not necessarily. I recommend Clear for the U.S. Global entry if you travel international.
I think that's what they mean. But as a U.S. citizen, right? Global entry only works if you're coming back into America, right? For those who don't want to get global entry, check. Oh yeah, so mobile pass. Okay, so mobile passport. If you don't want to pay the $100 for global entry, there's mobile passport, but there's a few things to know about mobile passport.
Because they will play in your face with mobile passport.
It's an app on your phone, and once you land, how I used it before I had global entry, once I landed, I would fill out all my customs paperwork, and I would go to the mobile passport line. And it's also expedited access through
if they are taking it that day.
If they're taking it that day. Global entry is always accepted at an international airport when you return back, but the mobile passport line could possibly be closed. So that's just one thing to know. I've only, in the years that I used the mobile passport, I only found that line to be closed one time, but just know that is a possibility.
It's starting to be closed a lot coming through Houston. I've experienced that a couple of times coming through Bush in Houston. Unfortunately, but mobile passport is definitely a free. It's a free resource, and it's great when they're not tripping.
Sorry. I've been talking a lot.
It's okay, but I definitely recommend Clear. I recommend Global Entry. I recommend all these services. I actually, to be honest, don't have Global Entry and TSA PreCheck that yet, even though I recommend people to them all the time. I only have Clear, but Clear be saving my life. I just told y'all I'll be missing flights. So for me, with Clear, I'm not worried about it. I know, unless I'm in Atlanta, for the most part, I can make it through on very short.
And so the way clear works, it gives you expedited access through security, but if you have Clear with PreCheck, it gives you expedited access through security, because you then get to cut the front of the line, the front of the PreCheck line, if that makes sense.
For sure.
Um,
So I think we're at that time for tonight. It's gonna cut off any moment.
I think actually it won't cut off until 9:20 because we started so late.
10:20.
I mean 10:20. Yeah, because we started so late. Remember, we were on for a minute, and then we stopped.
I'm scared it's gonna cut off.
But okay, we'll go ahead. So if you're not punctual, absolutely.
You're talking about me to my face, and that's cool. But
Honestly,
yeah,
even if you are punctual, because
Clear is still. Yeah,
I pay $700 a year for lounge access, and I'm going to get my
yeah.
champagne and my free snacks and all those other things.
And that's a good investment too. Like for Jennifer, she's able, like Delta. Delta prices from Houston have just never made sense to me. Like Delta's an expensive option, but United is a great option. United Lounge access for the year, I think it's currently $600 for the year. If you know that you're going to travel, especially if you're going to have international or long haul flights, knowing that cancellation delays, all that kind of stuff is rampant right now, even in the US. Get lounge access. It's your best friend. Like, if you're stuck in the airport for a long time, you're going to eat and drink. When you think about it, it's so easy to rack up $100 airport bar bill real quick. 6 of those you pay for lounge access, where there's complimentary food and drinks.
And then, I mean, they're not even just about the complimentary food and drinks. You can take a shower. Some of them have where you can actually have like a pod for you to sleep in. There are quiet meeting rooms.
Yeah. I've never got to enjoy those things, but yeah.
That's okay, girl, because you have me and we can have.
Yeah, I've never got to enjoy those things.
And then also there are certain credit cards that you can get. So I have a Capital One Venture X card.
Same, and we have Capital One Lounge access.
There's Capital One Lounge access, and even though the lounge, no, I don't be meeting no men. I wish I did. The one time I thought I met this man and I was batting my little eyes, it turned out that he didn't want to sit there because he saw 2 people of color sitting there, and I guess he was trying to figure out why we were there. But that's neither here nor there.
I think that's some.
Okay, so are you allowed a guest? Yes, it depends. It depends on what your membership access is. So for my Delta Sky Club lounge access, no, I'm not allowed a guest for free. I'm not allowed a free guest. Right. I have to pay $50 or 5,000 miles in order to have somebody come with me. With my Capital One Venture X card, I'm allowed up to 2 guests. That is in the Capital One Lounge. I'm not sure how it works for.
They're definitely strict. They're not.
Yeah, they're definitely strict because again, they want to weed out the riffraff. So you can't have your whole family coming up in there.
Right. They're not playing those games.
And then if you have, I know it's a Capital One Lounge. If you have more than one guest, I think it's like $35 for each person. But with certain credit cards have their own lounges, like American Express Centurion Lounge. But certain credit cards also get you access to other lounges. So if you have like a Chase Sapphire Reserve or a Capital One Venture X, and I think the American Express Centurion, it also gives you access to like 300 lounges around the world because it gives you access to something called Priority Pass. And Priority Pass is a little card that you get once you sign up, or you can sign up in the app, and it gets you access internationally. So when we were in Brazil and I was waiting in Rio for my next flight, I went up to, I can't think of what the name of the lounge was, but I had access because of my my Venture X card.
One thing I'll say about these lounges, make sure that go to their official sites, because things can change. If you haven't been keeping up with the Delta drama, they had a whole bunch of changes that went on in a short span of time. So the best way to have the most accurate information is just to make sure that you are go to the official sites to figure out what the rules are, how much guest costs, these different things. and get used to that. Like, go to the official source, because anything that we say here can change tomorrow.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So you want to make sure that you're always staying abreast. So is there a timeline, like 2 guests a year? So it depends on the lounge that you are going to. So for Delta, I think that there is for certain members, there is a limit on how many times that you can
Just
currently.
right.
It's just say
And
currently.
Delta showed they behind with changes this year.
Currently with Delta, I think there are certain lounge memberships where you can only visit a few times a year. For my level of access that I have, I can come unlimited as much as I want because I've been grandfathered in because of a program that no longer exists.
Right.
So it really depends on the airline and the rules for your credit card. And then someone else said, if you have a travel companion, can you split the payment? Are you talking about the annual fee? The annual fee, sure, that's up to you. If you're talking about the fee that they charge you to bring a guest, then that's between you and your companion. If y'all want to split the cost. So if I was to have her come with me to Delta, if she decided she wanted to split the $50 fee, that's
Right.
that's on you.
The 3 credit
Whether
cards.
if
Capital One Venture.
Venture
has
X,
a,
Venture X.
Well, I only have Capital One Venture, and I have lounge access too.
It depends, because you may only have a limited amount, right, of access for the lounge.
Mhm.
So, but I know with the Venture X, I don't have a limit on how many. So check your and I don't know if you get that priority pass thing either.
No, I don't. I just have lounge access.
Okay, yeah. So it really depends on the level of card that you have. So she's
Right.
saying with her Venture card that she has
Right, but Venture X, of course, is going to get you the higher. But Capital One Venture, you'll get some lounge access. We also American Express. The American Express is not all
Platinum.
American Express.
No,
It's
I think it's
Platinum.
the Platinum, and then the Chase Sapphire Reserve,
Yeah.
and then the Capital One Venture X. So there's the Capital One Venture X, the Chase Sapphire Reserve, and the American Express Platinum.
Right.
Follow Breakfast with Tiffany on Instagram. She is the guru when it comes to traveling with credit cards.
Hey, Black Book Houston.
Splitting the annual fee, that's really at your discretion. So if you have somebody who is your travel companion and one of y'all has to pay the annual fee, that's up to you. I know for me personally, my employer pays my annual fee. I just have to show that it's been paid, and I submit my receipt, and I get reimbursed for that. Can you?
And also, with the Capital One, I know my Venture, so I know the Venture X is like this too. They pay for my global entry. They'll reimburse me for my global entry. So when you have these cards that typically come along with these travel perks, look into what your reward options are so that you can get things like.
No, I said Centurion Lounge, and that's the lounge you get access to when you have the American Express Platinum card. Yeah, sorry.
No, you're okay. And so know what, when you have these cards that have these travel perks, a lot of times they'll pay for things like your global entry, your pre-check, your clear, your all these things. So look into those.
Also, it's a really good idea for you to check your benefits with your employer. Employers don't always advertise these benefits, but there are a lot of employers that pay for TSA, reimburse for TSA pre-check, reimburse for global entry. And like I said, my employer reimburses me for my annual fee for, I can only choose one credit card with the annual fee, but they will reimburse me for that annual fee.
For sure. And so you guys, unfortunately for tonight, our time is coming to an end. This is Sips and Trips. I'm Tania. I'm the owner of Travels by Tania.
And I am Jennifer of Red Lips and Passports, and we will see you guys in 2 weeks. You can definitely call your card company, but you can also you can go on NerdWallet. You can go on the Points Guy. You can follow several people who post about these benefits, like Breakfast with Tiffany, who we've had on the show.
For sure.
Have on the show before. Federal Civilian get TSA pre-check. It really depends on the agency that you work for. Not all federal civilians get TSA pre-check automatically.
So, yeah. And remember, the things that we share can change at any time, especially when it comes to things like lounge access, credit cards, certain things that different companies are able to give you. So always back up our info with information from the original source. because things change.
Yep. So everything that we are telling you all today is correct as of January 3rd, 2023. So please remember, because I remember a long time ago, pre-COVID, if one person on your booking had TSA pre-check, that meant everybody on your reservation had it. And then when the program um with the program when the pandemic happened, that they got away with that. Yes, so Department of Defense and federal law enforcement agencies get TSA pre-check. So that is current as of January 3rd, 2024. I'm sorry, I said 23, I meant 2024. So anyway, we know we gave you guys a lot of information, but
Tonight,
feel
yes.
free to slide in our DMs if you ever have any questions. We both are extremely responsive. And so anyway,
The responsible way, that's not what she meant. That's not what she meant.
I am the responsible friend out of the two of us.
Not me.
Yeah, not her. Okay, because if you fool with her,
I'm professional.
You're
but
professional.
But in my real life, that's not it.
and thank you all. Thank you so much for the compliment on my content, and also we got a compliment on how we look tonight.
Oh, thank you.
So anyway, happy New Year to you guys.
Happy New
Please
Year.
join us in 2 weeks when we have.
See you on the 17th.
Yeah, we'll see you on the 17th. Bye, guys.
Thank you. That's so sweet. I've traveled more. Thank you.
I travel more because we love you. We love to hear that.